So if you're like me and you get your first electric guitar with a whammy bar system, you probably did something like this. Right? In this video, we're going to take a look at some more musical ways to utilize a floating bridge system to come up with some pretty ear-pleasing results. Let's check it out. The first and most obvious way to get the whammy bar to work for you in a phrasing sort of context is to use it just for subtle vibrato. Now, when you normally do vibrato on a guitar, I'm going to say 10th fret, 2nd string here. I'll use that for demonstration purposes. What you're going to do is you're going to play a note, a fundamental note. As you add vibrato to it, the note goes up in pitch and then returns back to the fundamental. And that's all you can do with that. There's no other way to allow the pitch to drop and come back to the fundamental, unless you're using more of a violinistic approach where you push and pull the string. But for a lot of guitar playing, vibrato on the spot, we don't really have the time or the setup to do that type of vibrato. You can't really do that in the middle of a phrase, so to speak. You'd have to totally change what your phrase would be in order for you to stop and get into that type of vibrato. But if you have a floating bridge system, you can go up, return to the fundamental, lower than the fundamental, and back, giving you a nice warm kind of circular sound. That's probably the first and most obvious thing you can do. So. A good example of a player who does that all the time would be like Tony McAlpine, or Jeff Beck would be known for constantly having the bar in hand and adding just subtle little vibratos here and there. The other way that I've heard it used, and I like to do personally, I'm going to call it the swoop. And the swoop would be where you aim to play a phrase or a note, but you swoop into the first note or last note, whichever note you want. The idea is that you articulate a note by actually having the bar depressed a little bit first. Then you hammer the note. And just after you hammer it, you let the bar return from its sub position to its original rested position. Joe Satriani did that in Crush of Love, in the pre-chorus, I guess you could call it. That's a great example there of a really smart and clever way, very smooth way to use a vibrato. So all you have to do there is take a phrase that you want to play, and whatever note you want to hear the swoop on, make sure you've got the bar a little depressed before you hit the note. And as soon as you hit it, usually via a slide or maybe a hammer, then you apply the swoop up and away you go. You can also swoop out. You can take a phrase, right? And use it as your exit strategy. That's kind of a neat effect too. Chris Poland, ex of Megadeth, used to do that all the time. Alan Holdsworth is also known for kind of doing that back in the day. So there's the swoop. That's very cool. One of my favorite ones, which is definitely more of an effect, it's more of a, well, let's just say this, I wouldn't use it all the time, is something that Joe Satriani back in the day called the lizard down the throat effect. As goofy of a name as that is, I think you'll agree that it is well fitted. Check this out. The premise here is that you're combining a slide, a physical slide up a string. Let's say I'm on the 3rd string. I'm around, I'll start on the 5th fret. And as I slide up, the pitch goes up, obviously. What you're going to do is you're going to try to counteract that rising pitch by lowering the whammy bar. So in other words, your goal is to try to keep the pitch consistent, keep it at one note. Of course, you never will, because the whammy bar and the sliding will never be equal temperament there. So you get the effect by the inaccuracy or the inconsistency of being able to keep it at the same pitch. But the goal is to try to do that. So as I'm moving my 5th fret note up, higher and higher, I'm dipping the bar lower and lower to try to counteract that. And on the return, as I'm moving the hand back, lowering the pitch, I'm letting the bar come back up gradually to try to, again, maintain balance. So it's almost like, I guess it would be sort of like being one of those log rolling champions where the log's going back and forth in the water and you're just trying to keep everything on the level. But there's the lizard down the throat. Again, I probably wouldn't play that in a ballad or at a bar mitzvah or anything, but it is a neat effect. It sure beats the old, which I'm so done with. I'm just so done. Oh, there is one more. I almost forgot. Check this out. You can also use it to create melodies. This is the toughest of them all, by the way. This is the toughest one to do because you're going to start by imagining a melody. I'm going to go. There's the melody I'm imagining. I'm in the key of D. I'm starting on the 7th fret on the B string, and I'm going to go from F sharp to G, E to F sharp, or 5 to 7, and then I'll rest on 7 on the 3rd. There's the melody I have in mind. But I'm going to perform it on a single string using the whammy bar. Check this out. Ooh, that's tough. So as you can see, I'm using the whammy bar and the ability to push up and pull down to articulate some of the notes. Like I'm holding the F sharp. I'm using the whammy bar to bring F sharp up to G and back. I swoop to get the E. I use the whammy bar to get from E to F sharp. And I'm using the same E to get to D with a dip. And that is the toughest one right there. I think with the pulling up on the bar, you get a little more resistance. It's easier to get the note you're looking for because the bar fights back a bit and it doesn't allow you to overshoot. But going from a higher pitch to a lower pitch note like E down to D, that takes a little more control. There we go. Jeff Beck does a lot of that, and Steve Vai did back in the day as well. So there you go. Now let me know what your favorite whammy bar tricks are in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.